presentation on the YouTube, so everybody will have a chance to see it later. Again, we will get started with HUBZone Federal Contracting Program. So just a few little introductory things. This class covers the federal HUBZone Small Business Program. Keeping in mind, this is a program that is pertinent to federal contract opportunities, not necessarily state or municipal, things like this. It is a federal program that will be focused specifically for opportunities, for federal opportunities. So even though there are a lot of state and local governments that have small business programs, there are so many and they're so widely varied, they're not going to be covered in today's presentation. If you're interested in contracting with a state, city, county, get in touch with me. Let me know what you're interested in and kind of learn about what their preferences are for small businesses. And feel free to ask PTAC for help anytime. So the HUBZone program, just to give you kind of a little overview. HUBZone is one of those lovely government acronyms, and it stands for Historically Underutilized Business Zones. And these are areas around our country that are designated by the government, generally based on census data, that determine an area that it's economically disadvantaged because of numerous reasons, whether it's high unemployment, poverty, other conditions that come into play. And some contracts with the federal government are set aside for competition among firms that are certified as HUBZone firms, and then others are sole sourced to the HUBZone firms. It helps small businesses in outlying urban and rural areas and communities to get preferential access to federal contracts. And to qualify, in a nutshell, a business must be small, must be owned and controlled by United States citizens, have its principal office located in a designated HUBZone, and have at least 35% of its employees residing within a HUBZone. A HUBZone is the key because it doesn't have to be the same HUBZone where your principal office is. If they reside within an area that is also designated a HUBZone, then that would qualify as part of your 35% requirement. You can find out if your small business and your employees are within a HUBZone by going to the map. The link is there for you. And like I say, I will follow up and be sure you have all of this information. The benefits of being HUBZone certified are multiple. Like I say, the government limits competition for certain contracts to businesses that are designated and certified within historically underutilized business zones. And it provides preferential consideration to those businesses in a full and open competition. In addition, the contract can be set aside for competition that is restricted to certified HUBZone firms if it's believed that there are at least 2 qualified HUBZone bidders with a fair market price in a specific area for specific contracts. And the federal contracting officers can award sole source contracts, meaning without competition with others, to qualified HUBZone businesses if they determine that they believe there are at least 2. They call that the rule of 2. And keep in mind, this is something that I find very interesting and important to understand, is that in any full and open competition, the price that's offered, that is your proposal price that's offered by a qualified HUBZone firm, can be regarded as being lower than the price of another offerer if the HUBZone price is not more than 10% higher than your competitor. And that's called the price evaluation preference. Now, it may seem almost too good to be true, but it's something I want each of you to remember, because that comes into play in the competition, and those that are in charge of contract management and solicitations are very aware of it, and it can benefit you by getting certified. Now, I'm going to kind of go back over why these small business programs in general are so important to the federal government. They have preferences. The federal government has set aside preferences for small businesses and some subcategories of small businesses. And the biggest preference that, the biggest preferences that really apply to this is that nearly all contracts that are under $150,000 are set aside for small businesses exclusively. Now, keep in mind that is when they know that there are at least 2 small businesses that can perform the work or provide the products that they're looking for that are certified. There are reasons why, and this goes back a number of years, that the Small Business Act of 1977 mandated that 23% of all federal purchases go to qualified small businesses. The SBA, the Small Business Administration, is responsible for the oversight and establishment of these goals. So federal agencies have internal goals to meet, so they bring on disadvantaged businesses that are certified, including what's listed here. They're required to meet goals of 5% contracts to women-owned businesses, 5% to small disadvantaged businesses, or what are called the 8A qualified businesses. 3% of their contracts and subcontracts need to go to service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, and 3% of those contracts are to go to HUBZone certified small businesses. And this is data from a couple of years back, but I thought it was interesting and wanted to share with you that if we take a look on the left of the category of certifications and small businesses in general that the feds are looking at to meeting goals. So there's the 23% goal for small, 5% for small disadvantaged, 3% service disabled veteran owned, 5% to women owned, and 3% to HUBZone. But take a look at the entire picture. If you look across the small business category, you can see that the government in 2018 did pretty well meeting that goal or exceeding it. Same thing with small disadvantaged. What they reached was above the 5%. Service disabled, women owned, that one's, they had a little bit of trouble there, but overall very close to the 5%. But note that of all the goals that are set for small businesses, HUBZone is the least often met by federal entities. They needed to do 3. When you look at 2014 through 18, they were 2% or less. That tells us that federal entities are having difficulty and they want to work with HUBZone small businesses that are certified. That can open doors and give you preferential treatment. Keep in mind again, what is small? Am I small? I know many people ask because they may have a lot of employees or they may make some pretty good money in whatever their specialty is, but it's determined by the government and the NAICS code. And there's a lot of different things that come into play. But in general, a small business is one that is organized for-profit business. It has their place of business in the United States and makes a significant contribution to the economy by paying taxes or by use of American products, material, or labor. A small business concern, any of you seen that term in your SAM profile, means that it is independently owned and operated, that it's not dominant in the field of expertise that you are working on, and it's qualified as a small business under the size standards in CFR Part 121, and we'll run through that to help clarify it for it. Now the size standards, basically through the SBA, it defines the largest size that a business can be to participate in a federal small business contracting program that is reserved or set aside for small businesses. And those standards vary by industry. Again, it depends on what you do, how many employees you have, where you're located, what your NAICS codes. There are a number of different pieces to that puzzle, and those are things that I can help you confirm when we work together on this. Qualify as a small business, you need to determine what your NAICS codes are and how that applies to your operations, and then you match those codes with the SBA's small business size standards. Again, SBA determines those based on NAICS code, types of specialties you have, and then there are all different pieces that we'll run through for you too. So if you ask yourself if your business is small, it really depends on a number of aspects. What your average annual receipts are, or the number of employees based on the NAICS code, The code assigned to the government solicitation, again, it depends on what type of work or product that they are referring to. It depends on when you submit your bid. Some may be considered small and then get a really good opportunity and they get more employees and more money coming in, and it may flip and put you in the large business category. So it depends on when your bid goes in. And it also depends on if you have any affiliations, which are other larger businesses that you are affiliated with or a parent company. So the average receipts basically is, they talk about the term annual receipts. It's good to make sure you understand that because it is the total or gross income plus costs of goods sold, and they can normally be found on your business's IRS tax return forms. Those receipts are averaged over a business's most recent 3 complete fiscal years, and that will help determine what the average annual receipts are. For the average employment, they're talking about individuals working for you and your company that are employed on a full-time, part-time, or other basis, including employees from a temp agency or a professional employee organization or leasing concern. We can go into that in more depth individually. We won't have time for that today, but it's something to consider when you're trying to determine if you might qualify. And then the average number of employees is based upon the number of employees for each of the pay periods for the preceding 12 months. Now, I can help you with that if you decide to go for certification. I can help review that with you. So the steps to certification for HUBZone. Your business must be 51% unconditionally and directly owned and controlled by U.S. citizens. You have to be a small business, both within your primary industry for your size standard, have a principal office in a HUBZone, and at least 35% of your employees living within a HUBZone. To become certified, you have to qualify as a small business based on the firm's primary NAICS code. And once you're certified, you have to qualify as a small business for the particular NAICS code on the solicitation that you intend to bid on. Again, it needs to match. If you're HUBZone certified with one NAICS code, the solicitation you want to respond to has nothing to do with that NAICS code, then your HUBZone certification will not be beneficial in that respect. So again, it's a process of matching what they're looking for, what you have to offer, and how your certification applies. For those that aren't real familiar with NAICS codes, I think most of you are, but it stands for the North American Industrial Classification System, and it's how the government classifies businesses by different business and industry types. Depending on what your business does, you may have one or more NAICS code. We try to work on that primary that will help match with those large solicitation federal opportunities that you want to go for. To find it, there is a link at the top of this slide for you that you go to, and it'll bring up the screen you see here. And then where the NAICS keyword search bar is, you type in basically some keywords that describe what you do. If it's carpentry, type in carpentry. Construction, type in construction, and then start, looking through the different codes that are for specific areas of expertise under that main category until you find what you feel is the best match for your company's service or products. If you need help with that, feel free to let me know and I can help. There's also a place to click on, I think this says get a hold of Dr. NAICS, and SBA. The NAICS representative will contact you and kind of help walk through and find out what the best NAICS codes are to match your business. Then you take a look at the SBA's size standards. I've included the link on this slide for you as well. I think there are standards for a little over 1,000 classifications with NAICS codes. And so you can take a look and find out what the size standards are for those specific codes and how many thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions a company can make within that particular NAICS code and still be considered a small business. You can also use their size standards tool. I use this on a regular basis. You go to SBA, the link again is there for you. You type in the NAICS code you think is the best match for you and what your average annual receipts or revenue, and click on those, fill those out, click submit. The answer will come up. Are you a small business eligible? And it will say yes or no. If you get no, it might be time to go back and look and find out, did I get the NAICS code right? What else can I do to help determine whether or not I qualify as a small business for the HUBZone program? Remember the basics though. Make sure you know your NAICS codes. You have to have a TIN, EIN that can be obtained on the IRS website that will match what IRS says matches your business. You must have a DUNS number and be fully registered in System for Award Management, or SAM. When you do your SAM profile, be sure that you complete the dynamic small business search profile at the end. If you can't find it, let me know. I'll help you find what page that's on. That will automatically upload all of your business information from your SAM profile into the SBA's dynamic small business search, where most contract managers and myself, we go to that website to find out companies, NAICS codes, sizes, certifications. You want to use that tool to the best of your advantage. If you're not sure how to do it, you need some help fine-tuning your DSBS profile, just let me know and I'll help you do that. The SBA is going to need to certify your HUBZone eligibility. Again, the HUBZone map is there. You simply type in, there is a search engine in the HUBZone map link. You type in the address of your primary business location, hit go or search, and it'll automatically give you a green check saying HUBZone qualified, or it will say, maybe it's gray, or it says not HUBZone certified. If you're not sure how to do it, again, contact me. I'll plug the information in and see, and I can print out and send you a map that you can keep in your file that proves that you qualify if that's the case. And you do the same thing with your employees' addresses. Find out if they reside within a HUBZone and see if you've got at least 35% of your employees that reside within a HUBZone. If those two things work, that's when you and I need to start talking and working toward that application. If one of those don't come up as being HUBZone certified, then I don't want you to waste the time going through the process. Just consult with me and find out if there's anything else that can be done. To be honest, I have had at least 2 clients in the last 2 years who simply were 1 block away. They were on the wrong side of the street or a block away from a certified HUBZone region. They simply moved their primary office to another building that they had leased that was within a HUBZone. Then they could move forward with certification. So you just never know what we might be able to do to help guide you through that. Your certification will be recertified every 3 years. And if you're denied, I believe you have to wait a year to reapply, which is another good reason to work with your PTAC to be sure that it goes through appropriately the first time, the right way. When it comes to ownership, all firms have to be small businesses, unconditionally and directly owned by 1 or more U.S. citizens. A large company cannot own a HUBZone firm. It has to be owned by a person or persons. In this case, there are no net worth or income restrictions. Those are things we can talk about a little later. We don't quite have time on that today. Now, because HUBZone firms have to be small businesses unconditionally and directly controlled by 1 or more citizens, the U.S. citizens must be in charge of the everyday, long-term decision-making and day-to-day management operations. We want to be sure that whoever is going to sign off on this, request the certification and get authorized, must be the individual that has the authorization and is in charge of that business and making all decisions. Doesn't mean you have to be the one that's out in the field running all the equipment. That can be an employee, but the person that goes through this certification and is responsible for it must be in control of the company. This I'll just kind of slide through. I think I've covered that with the principal office, basically it's where most of the company employees work. or where most decision-making processes take place. Now, when it comes to the employee residency, according to the guidelines that are set down, an employee, quote unquote, is anyone that works at least 40 hours a week for the company. And at least 35% of the firm's employees must have lived in a hub zone for at least 6 months prior to applying. If it's less than 6 months, maybe they just moved, 4 months ago, they need to have been registered to vote at the HUBZone residency location so they can prove that residency. And then the company is expected to provide proof of residency for each of their employees, such as a copy of their driver's license, state issued ID, utility bills, things like that. When we're done with all of this, I can help you with this, but you'll see there's a link down at the lower right. When you go to that link, you can actually pull up this quick 2-page fact sheet that has all the information I'm sharing with you today in a very compact, easy read through. And I'd suggest that you go to that and print this fact sheet out and put it in your file. And then if there are parts that you're not sure if you would qualify, just let me know. We'll walk through them step by step and see what we think you may be able to do to qualify for that. But it's another great document that I recommend that you keep. First thing, get your SAM registration updated, activated. Make sure that you indicate whether you're a corporation, partnership, LLC. All those things are important, and I can tell you a little more about that later, but let me just say it helps me and it helps the SBA determine what documents you're going to need to provide to qualify for HUBZone. A corporation needs different documents than a partnership or a sole proprietorship. So it's all important that you get familiar with it and make sure that your SAM profile clarifies what business type you are. And you have to make sure that you designate that you are for profit. If you are a nonprofit, then you cannot qualify for the HUBZone program. If you're not real sure, they have that certify sba.gov decision tree. It's similar to the quick check that I showed you the other day, or on that slide earlier. So you can take a look and find out in this way if you might qualify to determine if you want to move forward. And then you can click on the other link to learn more about how to do the actual application. Give you some ideas on what this looks like. Now, one thing that's unique about the HUBZone program is that you have to utilize the SBA's general login system to create an account in which you can request application for HUBZone. So unlike some other certifications like a woman-owned, you would go to sbacertify.gov for a women-owned business. HUBZone is different. It's an entirely different program to go in and do the application and put in your profile, so keep that part in mind. Once you get in there, you complete the data in the entry fields. This will include creating your own user ID. Once the info is entered, like what you see in this screen, then the SBA will send you via email a password. Then you put in your user ID, coupled with the password that the SBA sent you, again, for security purposes, and that will give you the initial login into the general login system. And after you log in the first time, then you want to change the password to one that you will remember. Keep that in your file so you don't forget it. We all have been there. I have 3 books of them. The new password has to be at least this many characters, letters, everything that they ask you to do when you are registering. And the passwords will need to be updated every 90 days to maintain that level of security for you. Then you'll see a welcome screen. Agree to the terms. Click yeah. Okay, ready to go. Then you're ready to start the process of application. You can click on that button that says access, and that'll get you started. These are all just different steps. You're all fully capable of reading all this. I'll provide this to you, but it's nice to have because when you get in there, you're going to think, okay, what did she say? This way you can step through and follow the guide to get through it. Then after you enter everything, GLS is going to audit your entries, make sure that everything matches. If there's anything that's missing, they'll send you an email and ask you to clarify something. They may not quite understand the portion, so they'll want you to give them a little more information. It's really important that you, after you put in your application, that you monitor your email closely, including your junk files or trash files, because spam files, because if you don't respond to them within 10 days, then your application won't be processed. It'll go on hold and you may be kicked out of the queue. It's another good reason to work with PTAC. I can help you make sure that these things work more smoothly for you. So it used to be SBA figured it would take about 1 to 3 months for the process once you apply. When they ask a question, again, you want to get it right back to them so they can continue processing it. And keep in mind that I am one of only 2 PTAC counselors in the state of Washington that's trained and SBA authorized to pre-screen all of your documentation to help make sure you're fully prepared to apply. So if you work directly with me, I will have you gather all the documents. I'll give you everything you need to know what documents you need. I'll help you understand how to save those in files that will make the processing faster. Then I'll have you send me all of those documents, and I pre-screen and I answer questions on a spreadsheet that the SBA provided to me. I'll let them know, yes, you have what you need. I've seen it, I can prove it, and I give them examples of what you're going to send in. And then when you actually apply, you let me know what your application number is. When you put your documents into their upload, you let me know and I immediately follow up with my screening spreadsheet. What that does is it tells the SBA that you're working closely with a PTAC who's trained and authorized to say yes or no. That will bump you ahead of others that are not working with PTAC and expedite the application. I've had clients that instead of waiting 3 months, they got their answers back within 30 days. So this can help you if you want to do it. Stay closely connected to your PTAC. A little bit more about why this is good. These are things I think are important for you to have in your file too. It applies to the HUBZone, but it applies to other certifications in small business. So I want to make sure you know this. You can research this federal spending and take a look at forecasts of upcoming contracts by utilizing your SAM profile, right now known as beta.sam, and that'll change later this month back to SAM. Then you can identify potential buyers of the services or products that you have to offer by clicking on that contract data. That pulls information from the federal procurement data system. It's all integrated into SAM now, and it's a good way to look up who's spending money on things that I have to offer. Keep an eye open for requests for information. This is another one in the beta SAM. Click on contract opportunities, and that brings up the information that used to be known as Fed Biz Ops or Federal Business Opportunities. You can click on that, take a look and see what's coming up, save the information or reach out to someone to let them know what you have to offer. You can also contact procurement center representatives. It's a really good idea because if they don't know what you do, what your capabilities are, and if they don't know that you're a certified HUBZone, they can't really advocate effectively on your behalf. So once you're certified, you want to contact those PCRs in your area, let them know what you do, share with them a capability statement, and let them know that you're certified. The link to that is here, and you can go ahead and look people up specific to your area, the states that they work, and then follow up with them to let them know what you have to offer and ask that they keep that in mind when they're looking for companies like yours. Let small business specialists know that you're certified. They're in position to pass along the information about your company, including their impressions about you, if you're able to speak directly with them, and they can send that to the COs and other internal customers like prime contractors looking for subs. If you can put that person in a position of thinking and speaking positively about you as a credible provider, that can help the COs or the other people in charge of those contracts, it helped them alleviate a little anxiety about bringing on a company they may not have worked before. If you don't know who it is that you would talk to for a specific federal entity, get a hold of me. I'll help locate who those people are and see if we can put you in touch when I believe that you're fully prepared to do so. Contact small business liaison officers. There's actually a directory in the SBA that you can go to. The link is here for you. You just can't see it real small. The link down toward the bottom you can do, and you'll see the screen that I've shared on the right. And you click on the download and you will have a spreadsheet of prime government contractors that have a requirement, a goal to subcontract to small businesses. And you can contact, do your homework on them and find out who you might work with. Find out who you might work with and talk to about being considered as a sub. Because you're HUBZone certified, you can help those primes meet their goals, and that's something that they need. There are resources of trade organizations, something called the HUBZone Council, and it's an association comprised of companies and organizations that really work to improve and support the HUBZone program nationwide and to help those small businesses. I looked it up the other day. They've got a plethora of information. They can help you network for joint ventures, partnerships with other companies, mentoring. And there's actually a summit coming up in September of 2021. It's lengthy because it'll be virtual, but it might be something to take a look at via that link and see if you want to connect with them and learn more about that organization. Because if you're certified, they're there to help you. You might consider teaming, doing a JV. I mean, these partnerships can help you as a small business work with a larger business. Then it can really increase your capacity, your experience. You can share the costs and risks with a partner to make it easier for you to participate in maybe some of those larger contracts. And I mean, it will, potentially move you into a mentor-protege opportunity, maybe get some training, marketing assistance, and other things that the SBA can offer when you consider a teaming agreement or joint venture. That's a whole different chapter. We can talk about another time. If you want more information, feel free to let me know. You can register in the beta.sam or the FBO and kind of set up a watch list. Take a look at the alerts coming out and say, I want to save this, keep me posted. When more opportunities come up that match your NAICS and your certification and you want to know ahead of time, that can kind of give you one up on your competitors as well. So, run through those slides. I know it's a ton of information. I think all of it is beneficial and helpful. And I'm going to ask Talia really fast before I ask any other questions come up. Talia, you are a small business program manager with WRPS. One of the things I mentioned with leveraging, maybe that kind of was something similar. Would you like to share with the folks what you do and how that can help them if they are able to reach out to a small business program manager?
Absolutely. So on the Hanford site, each DOE or DOD, any government contractor, they'll have a small business advocate, and they'll also have goals that flow down from the government, from DOE, that they need to try to reach on a yearly basis, as well as a contract to date basis. Our HUBZone goal is 2.2% of our subcontracting dollars. So contract to date, we're hitting that goal. Year to date, it's hit and miss depending on the year, depending on the services we're acquiring, and if the job is actually going to follow to completion. So there's a bunch of biases that can kind of hit into those subcontracting dollars. But I definitely suggest reach out to any small business advocate, find out who that is. They'll get you in front of their buyers. I know a few years ago, we did in compilation with the local DOE, all the Hanford primes we were part of a Hanford Small Business Council. We put on a HUBZone event, and we did that event right before our Bridging Partnerships event. So that way, if people were coming in town, they could essentially go to both events that same week within a couple days of each other.
Mhm.
So we do a lot to do reach out for HUBZone. You know, definitely lead by what your niche is, by what you do well, because that, you know, that's definitely your in, and then whatever your status is definitely a bonus. I know a few times we've had, you know, we do small business set asides, as Jody mentioned, for under 150,000, but sometimes there will be a call out for specific hub zones if goals are not being met. So
Mhm.
there might be something say, hey, we're only going to solicit hub zone companies, and then if we need to reach out further than that because there's not enough companies, then, you know, they'll open it up to various small business types. But
Mhm.
yeah, so every company has their own goals and, you know, has their own scope. So, you know, MSA probably doesn't buy the same HUBZone services as WRPS. So
Mhm.
kind of get to know the companies and ask the advocates what they do, what their scope is, and if it's a good fit between your two companies.
Mhm.
So.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's really nice to have good contacts with people like Talia and her partners at the Hanford site, because you know they do their very best to meet those goals, but every now and then something comes up and they think we might have an opportunity. They're kind enough, sometimes they can contact me and see if any of my data shows that they're HUBZone certified firms that they weren't aware of. And it's really good to keep everybody apprised of any certifications that you have, and make sure your capability statement is up to snuff, because we can maybe connect you and you can share that with them to increase their knowledge of your certifications and capabilities. Let's open it up to questions. Who would like to unmute and comment, question, share stories? Who would like to chat with us today?
Well, I checked the map online while we were talking here, and we are like 1 block away.
Are you?
So how do they come up with these areas, and are they ever changeable?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks, Steve. The HUBZone areas or regions are determined by census data. And as you and I, all of us know that this past year when they were doing the national census, which I think they do that every 10 years, it really kind of got set off kilter with COVID-19. And because of that, all hub zones are currently frozen in the status that you see on the map right now. They will not be changing for at least through the end of 2021, possibly into 2022, but we don't know yet. We'll get updates. But it really is based on census data from databases regarding businesses, where those businesses are located, how they're doing, what the income, are there major unemployment issues in certain areas. So it's kind of like that couple of slides I mentioned, there are various pieces of the pie, if you will. Now those hub zones, once the census is completed and they feel that they are ready to update those, some of those maps may change. Some of them that were designated may change to now it will be a designation through the next 4 years. Each time you look up an address, it's going to say that it's good through December 31st, 2021, or another thing. Some of them are based on counties, because in some areas there are complete counties. Grant County is an example that I believe the entire county is considered hub zone. Because it's quite rural, there aren't as many businesses that are larger and maybe as successful as you see in the more metro areas. So they're trying to level the playing field so that businesses located within those hub zones can have equal or better opportunity to bid and win, be a part of the contracting process. So Steve, if yours is located just outside a hub zone, what I can do is follow up with you. I'll take a look at the address, because so much of Yakima County is considered a hub zone. It may be something where we're just off a little bit. We can take a look. I'd be more than happy to take a peek at it and give you any guidance that I can, if you'd like me to do that.
Sure, and I thought all of Yakima County was a hub zone at one time, but apparently it's not, at least the map I looked at.
Okay.
And it actually wasn't showing a hub zone. There was some other blue census tract. is what most of Yakima is, according to.
Okay, okay.
I don't know what the difference is.
I'll take a look at it because sometimes it's pretty clear cut when it pops up, and in other cases it's a transition where it was HUBZone and they were going to transition this year. But again, if it's locked up because of the census and COVID, then it'll stay put for a while.
Okay.
But yeah, let me take a peek. I'll look at your business address and I'll send you a note and see what we can find out.
Okay.
Just kind of, I may have to do some other homework with my SBA folks and ask if they know of any changes, but currently everything's going to stay put for a while. So I'll take a peek and get with you, Steve.
Okay.
Hey, James, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I just wanted to clarify. So if the owner of the main office is in a HUBZone, then we're okay.
Mhm.
If the project is being done in a HUBZone, that's good. Or if our employees live in a HUBZone. Am I correct?
Yeah, 2 out of 3.
Oh,
Yeah, just
oh,
about. The project itself does not have to be taking place within a HUBZone. So if
okay.
you're located in a HUBZone, let's say in Pasco, and you've got at least 35% of your employees residing within a HUBZone, maybe some of them reside in Pasco, maybe some of them reside in downtown Kennewick, which is also a HUBZone, and maybe some of them reside within the HUBZone area range in Yakima. As long as you got 35% and you match those initial qualifications, then you could accept an award for a project that you do in Richland.
Okay.
And most of Richland is not a HUBZone, but the place of project, the place of service has nothing to do with your certification. It has to do with where your business is, where your employees reside. That's what makes the big difference right there.
Okay, so to clarify, our home office is in Prosser, Washington, which is not in a HUBZone. It just shows that we don't fit in that criteria in that area. But we do satellite jobs in Spokane area, as well as in the greater Northwest, and some of our employees would be possibly, I would have to do more research on this, on where they actually live in accordance to the zoning. So that would be the only route that we could effectively use this if this is a good option.
Yeah, it's quite possible because as part of your business, do you have a primary office that you do the majority of your work out of in Spokane?
No.
No. The
Sadly, no.
primary office for the entire company is in Prosser.
Well, yeah, we're that small.
Okay. Let me do some homework, James, and see what I find when I look at the map. Yeah, I've got a client I'm working with right now that they have primary offices in 2 different counties, and I think for theirs, both of them qualify for the location of the prime office. But if you've got 2 primary offices, you're serving different portions of the state. It could be you could certify one of them and not the other that isn't within it. But I would need to do some more one-on-one work with you to find that out. I don't want to mislead anyone. We want to do our homework. I'm more than happy to follow up with you and find out.
Fair. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yeah, you bet.
Jody, can I follow up on that? Because this is not an or, it's an and. So your primary business has to be in the HUBZone.
Correct.
If it's not in the HUBZone and your employees, 35% are in the HUBZone, you still don't qualify.
No, that primary office has to be.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I say, that was an example of one of the very first clients I worked with in PTAC. He had been working out of a home office as he built the company, but he also had I think it was a storage unit or a small office building that he leased or rented in another location within the Tri-Cities area. So for him, all he needed to do was move out of the home office that wasn't located in a hub zone, make his primary office space in that building that was within the hub zone. And then they were able to move forward with the certification. They got certified and ended up with a very lucrative contract. So it can happen. I don't recommend people, uproot and relocate their entire office just for this. But sometimes when you think about it, you think, we actually have an apartment that our company owns, or maybe you lease a small building or rent one for storage. Maybe you move the office into that site, and you'd need to be there for a while, I think, to qualify, because I don't think you can just do it overnight. I would need to research that for you. But these things have happened, and I've seen those. Sometimes those situations can lead to success. Every situation is independent of every other situation. So that's why I recommend that you consult with a PTAC counselor to determine what opportunities you may have and what arrangements you might be able to make. And sometimes it just won't work. If you're not located within a hub zone, you say, okay, but what other small business certifications can I pursue? And you ask your PTAC counselor to help you determine that. And that's what I'm here for. A couple of minutes left. Leanne, do you have any questions for us today or stories to share?
Oh, I have lots of questions.
Okay.
So for us, we're such a different business, both of our companies, seasonal, on call, pretty much no guarantee of work. So when someone asks the average number of employees, I never know how to answer. So I guess that would be something that I would like some help from you, trying to come up with that number.
Mm-hmm.
Because out of 12 months, we typically have maybe 4 good months of work.
Okay. Is that for wildfire suppression? Did I understand that correctly?
Correct. Yes. So we're
Okay.
looking at basically the fire season, summer into fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then even with our hazmat business, it does have a season as well, but not as strictly as wildfire does.
Mm-hmm.
Hazmat's a little bit more yearly, but still small jobs here and there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the part I actually started filling out the application and I did not get very far. So I'm glad I didn't.
That's why I always recommend you talk to a PTAC and find out for sure. Now, Leanne, you're located east of here. What state are you located in?
We're in Yakima, and I looked, and we are in a hub zone.
Okay.
We're pretty close to the edge.
Okay.
But yes, we are located in a hub zone. And I believe, again, depending on how we figure out the average employees,
Mm-hmm.
we do have a lot of employees that live on the reservation.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I believe we'll have the numbers. I just don't know what number to give.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you and I should follow up on that because it is kind of a unique situation. And it could be I need to bounce some questions off my SBA colleagues that are the HUBZone certifiers and ask them for some clarification for you and keep you up to date. So let's you and I connect up independent of this meeting and see what we can find out to help you determine whether or not you want to move forward with the application on that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Will do.
I've got to cut out. I just want to say thank you, everyone. Jody, thank you for this wonderful presentation. And continue any questions you guys need after, but feel free to contact me if there's anything I can do for anyone. So, all right, have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thank you,
everyone.
Talia. Great to see you again. Take care of yourself.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, well, we had some really good questions. Hopefully I've got some answers for you. I'm going to follow up by sending this information out to you. You will get the entire slide deck and the links, like I say, will take you to the other docs that were embedded in there. And if there's anything else I can think of that will be helpful, I will do that. And then feel free to get back in touch and say, hey, can we set up a time to chat and see if we can find out a little more information that will help you determine whether or not to put the time and effort into this. And if so, how it would benefit you. I'd like to see somebody be able to be able to benefit from the certification if they think they might want to go for it. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. I wish you all a wonderful day. Stay safe and stay healthy out there, and stay cool this weekend. It's going to be a rough one. I'll be in touch. Thank you, everybody.